The Women's International Network presents A Woman's Worth with psychotherapist and relationship expert, Dr. Joyce Morley. Let's explore our self-worth, poor decisions, family interactions, and more. Recognizing a woman's worth, bringing healing to the nations.
Hello, I'm Dr. Joyce, and welcome to A Woman's Worth. I have been a licensed psychotherapist for over 30 years, and I work with many people on many different issues. And we're here today to talk about other issues. I have written many books, but we'll talk about those later. I'm here with Alma Davis here today, and we're going to talk about domestic violence and the work that she does in working with women who are involved in domestic violence. Welcome, Alma, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little about this domestic violence. First of all, how did you become involved in this? And we're so thankful to you to have someone like you who's willing to work with our women, because domestic violence is an issue that's been going on for many, many years, through a lifetime. I'm a psychotherapist and I work with a lot of women and counseling them, and I know it's a very difficult thing. And these women have children, so it's not just worried about them, but how do they work with their children? How do they get up this abusive situation, get out of the cycle? Because it is a cycle of domestic violence.
The organization 14 years ago in 2005, and it was a result of my personal experience of domestic violence. I am a survivor of domestic violence, I'm a survivor of child abuse, and I am also a survivor of rape. But all these things took place with me before I was even 16 years old.
Wow.
I grew up in a household seeing domestic violence all the time. And because I grew up in the South, we were taught what goes on in your house stays in your house.
That's right.
There were not resources.
Right.
So as a 14-year-old child, I had a 14-year-old boyfriend who saw domestic violence in his household.
Wow.
Every day.
So he mimicked that.
He mimicked that and gave me my first set of black eyes.
Wow.
And I will never forget the feeling of walking out of his car right after the incident. I had to walk into a mall because they were doing this teen fashion thing. And I sat in the chair with a big gash on my face and black eyes, and not one person asked me, how could they help, what happened? I just remember the sting of a makeup artist trying to put makeup inside of an open cut.
Oh my goodness.
And from having experienced that, most people do not understand that 85% of child abuse cases come from domestic violence.
That's right.
households.
Yes.
Having to go through those vivid memories. At 16 years old, I was raped by my abuser's best friend.
Oh wow.
It happened on a Saturday, and on Sunday he beat me for allowing it to happen.
Wow.
But it didn't stop there. By the time I got to school on Monday, it's what we call being, you're familiar with being re-victimized.
Yes.
Everybody knew about it. I was blamed for it. And so it just put a very discouraging scar on my life that I didn't want to repeat a cycle, so therefore I never wanted children.
Right. So you came from being the victim, re-victimized. At one point you were invisible, because when you were beat by the boyfriend and he slapped you around and you had an open wound there, no one saw it.
Nobody saw
They
it.
pretended as if it didn't happen. And
That was the norm.
That's the norm. That's what usually happens a lot of time with women who are in domestic situations. People ignore it, they pretend it's not there, and many times the victim herself pretends it's not there because she's not given permission to be able to admit that this is what's going on.
Yes. And so I had my oldest daughter at 22, 23. And I was adamant that I was not going to repeat that cycle, that there was no way she was going to go through that. And just revisiting and thinking about my past and growing up in the South. I grew up in Albany, Georgia. And my father, who was the oldest of three, he had to see so many racial issues that took place down there, and a lot of that attribute to his anger as well. It does not excuse the act.
It doesn't.
But it helps you understand.
Right.
And growing up in that type of environment where at 13 years old his father got killed, but having to see the KKK, his parents were the first African Americans to own a grocery store or a hair salon, and so they dealt a lot with the opposite, Caucasians not wanting that to happen. So he got introduced very young to violence and abuse.
So what we have is a victim becoming the perpetrator.
Absolutely.
In order to cover his own pain and how to be able to deal with, he didn't know how to deal with all the things that he had seen, all of the angst, all the anger that had been taking place there.
Right.
So it's amazing. Then he came back and perpetuated that on your mom.
Absolutely.
You got a chance to be able to see that, and so this whole cycle continued, and then you wound up being in a situation with an abuser also.
Yes, I said most abusers are victims first. I
Yes.
always say that.
Yes.
Most abusers are victims first, and if you do not receive the counseling, the help, even addressing where does this come from, you will repeat the cycle.
You will.
You only have two choices: break the cycle or repeat it.
That's right.
And so this is what transpired and led my life's work to helping stop domestic violence as much as possible.
Yes.
They're the foundation was born.
Well, this has been a great conversation. We're going to continue talking about some other things here with Alma Davis. My name is Dr. Joyce Morley. I am the host of A Woman's Worth. Welcome back to A Woman's Worth, Joyce Morley, and we're here with Alma Davis, and we're talking about her work that she does with women who are involved in domestic violence. Let's go back and talk a little, Alma, about how did you get involved in this? And we talked a little about that, but what about the work itself? You were in an abusive situation. You witnessed that when you were growing up. Your dad abused your mom, and then you wound up being abused as a teen, and it went on and on from there. How did that segue you into the work that you do with women who are victims of abuse?
Having gone through that experience, I wanted to take those experiences and utilize that as a way to help others. So often we don't acknowledge the things that we've gone through. We use it to hide it, but I know that was I had to experience those things in order to do the work that I did.
Right.
And so from that I became an expert in the field, not only from having to be a survivor, but the knowledge based on understanding the reasons why people stay in domestic violence.
Yes.
The number one reason for that is financial. So through our foundation, we provide things as simple as 6 weeks financial training to help people empower themselves so they don't feel like, well, I have to stay in this abusive situation because I don't have finances.
Right.
Well, if you have your own, you become a very powerful person yourself. Understanding the therapeutic, that goes behind, before you can address the issues of domestic violence, what got you to this place?
Right.
What has taken place in your life that has not been addressed or has not been worked through. And so we do even six weeks counseling where we send counselors inside of shelters to talk about those issues and work with them through that.
Right. So when you're talking about that whole issue of financial strain, where women feel that they have to depend on this man and they don't have a way to be able to get out of it, many times it seems as if it locks them there. So that whole domestic violence is a system of, and it's a perpetual scheme of control. Financially is a way to be able to control. I'm not going to give you the money. You don't have any money. Nobody wants you. You can't get out of it. And then you talk about the counseling, the verbal. So it's not just the violence. Also, is not just physical. It's all verbal. It's an abuse that comes along with that. Can you talk just a little about that and how women are having to deal with that or not deal with it that brings them to your organization?
Yes. The mishap is that most people think domestic violence is the violence. The violence is the last thing that happens. There's so many warning signs from the verbal abuse, the psychological abuse, the emotional, the sexual, all of those things come first.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we live in a society where so many women are not educated on what healthy relationships look like. And because they don't have those things, they think those things are normal.
Right. They don't have a role model, somebody to model for them. Here's what a healthy relationship looks like. So they get into that person who perpetuates to them that they're going to give them love, that they really care about them, and they wind up finding that it's not true, what they're looking for. And many times, would you not say, Alma, that they're looking for something on the outside to fix what's missing on the inside?
To fill a void.
Yes.
We say that all the time. Most of the time, especially what we see in a lot of women, especially young girls, women that are promiscuous, they are looking for a void to fill something that may have been missed when they were younger or growing up.
Yes.
Whether that father was in the house or not, because just because you have a father in the house does not mean that's a healthy, healthy environment.
It doesn't.
So with us, we look at those reasons, we look at those things. Our foundation, and we start as young as 13.
Wow.
Working with young girls, and we do work with some males But what you find is that 85% of cases that are reported are from females.
Yes.
Because there's a big level of a shame that goes, the guilt that goes with that. When we look at statistics, the numbers are 1 out of 4 women, 1 out of 7 males, but only 5% of cases are reported.
Right.
So when you bring in the other 95%, it's like 1 out of 2 women, 1 out of 4 males.
So here's that fear, and going back to what we talked about previously, here's that sense of being invisible.
Yes.
Where no one actually sees it, where people are pretending that it's not taking place. No one says anything. What goes on in this house stays in this house. You can't tell anyone, so that throws that woman into believing that if I tell anyone or say something to someone, they're not going to believe me anyhow.
Right.
And so that becomes a challenge for you all as you're dealing with these women also.
Absolutely. So breaking those cycles is important to us. Our mission is what we call E2C.
Okay.
Educate, empower, and celebrate survivors and help them achieve economic and self-sufficiency.
Awesome.
If you can address those 3 areas, you can make someone whole again and get them back into breaking the cycle.
That's true. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk with Alma Davis. This is Dr. Joyce Morley, and we're going to talk a little bit more about domestic violence.
Did you know that 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years? 97 of them didn't have sound entrepreneurship training. Urban Business Institute's School of Entrepreneurship is designed to teach those who dream of building a successful business without the worry of debt with our low-cost tuition. In fact, you don't pay if you don't pass or complete the course, and we help get you the startup capital needed for your business upon graduation. Urban Business Institute, we create job creators through training, consulting, funding, incubating, and ongoing support, and our Black Capital Summit, How-To Conference, and Black and in Business Annual Conference. Visit urbanbusinessinstitute.com for more information. That's urbanbusinessinstitute.com.
It won't always be new. It won't always be clean. It won't always be flawless. But it'll always be yours. So how do you know it'll be protected? To solve the big challenges of tomorrow, take simple steps today. When you're ready to start, we're ready to help with auto insurance. Get started at countryfinancial.com/simple steps.
The Women's International Network presents A Woman's Worth with psychotherapist and relationship expert, Dr. Joyce Morley. Let's explore our self-worth, poor decisions, family interactions, and more. Recognizing a woman's worth, bringing healing to the nations.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Morley with A Woman's Worth. And we've been talking with Alma Davis, and she has an organization where she deals with women of domestic violence, and which is a very difficult task. And there's so many women out there, she said 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men. And many women are afraid to report it because too often what has happened is they're being seen or they're not being seen. They're invisible. No one wants to hear it and no one wants to believe it. And we do know that as of July of 2001, and even back into the 90s, the police have to come out when they come out and not just arrest a woman if she's saying there's domestic violence. They both have to be looked at. But people are beginning to listen, and Alma's organization is most certainly one that's listening to women, hearing what they're saying, and sometimes it's hearing what they're not saying. So let's talk a little bit more about the things that you're doing and how that all figures into you working with your own family. Because you have 2 daughters.
Yes. I have 2 daughters, yes. And again, this work was started because of them.
Okay.
Being adamant about breaking that cycle with them. They have been able to be involved with what I've done. The foundation has been in existence for 14 years. So
awesome.
Having them be involved, and they have to come out on the forefront in their age categories of doing things to make sure that domestic violence is being addressed. My youngest this past year started a movement at her school for teen violence, against teen violence.
Awesome.
Because we know that over 10 million high school students a year deal with teen violence, but they don't talk about it.
They don't talk about it.
Again, this is becoming a norm.
Right.
It's becoming a reality. When you look at what's happening on television,
right,
on our reality televisions, this is a
disrespect, all of that. That's all the places where it starts with. Yes,
right.
Yes.
So this is what's feeding our children that this is normal. My oldest passion is to be an attorney, and
awesome.
Growing up, it was all about social justice and helping fight for those people that don't have a voice.
Right.
And so that comes from the same kind of work that we do.
Yes.
Giving the voiceless a voice to know that they are not alone, that we are here for them. Through our foundation, we love, with the E2C, the educating, we provide signature opportunities to bring out survivors, to help them understand that we have your back.
Sure.
Through our education component, we do a survivors conference, biannual free conference for domestic violence survivors and sexual assault survivors, because a lot of it intertwines.
Right.
And it's where they can come out and get the resources and learn, and be in an environment where it's free, where it's safe to ask questions, to talk. That normally takes place at the Georgia World Congress Center and the Chick-fil-A Foundation Junior Achievement Discovery Center.
And so I like that piece where you say, we're advocates, we're giving a voice to the voiceless.
Yes.
And helping them to be able to speak for themselves, and helping them to be able to see that they don't have to worry, and they don't have to be into that control cycle.
Yes.
Because domestic violence is a cycle.
It's a cycle.
Let's talk a minute about that honeymoon period, when that woman is in that cycle of domestic violence, and she's with that man who's beat her up at 10, and then he wants to have sex with her. Not make love, but have sex with her at 10:30. And then she thinks it's all right after this is done, and he goes right back. Talk a little about that.
Yes, and that's interesting, because we have a power and control wheel that actually addresses those types of things. And it is an exact cycle where you're abused, but the next thing that happens is a gift.
That's
I mean, like immediately after you get a gift. And then there is the sexual component. And what that does, it confuses the victim.
Right. Yes.
But that abuser knows, again, that's a control mechanism where you're beat down, but then here I want to love on you and lift you back up.
Make you think you're being lifted up.
Think you're being lifted up. But that goes to the power of domestic violence and how there's so much mental control in that. And so that is, and until someone can recognize, wait a minute, this is a pattern of behavior I do know after I'm hit or beaten up.
Right.
Now it's time to have sex. And so until someone is given the tools that they need to break that and see that those are red flags, they will continue that.
They're going to continue.
that.
So that's why it's so important that we start with our girls very early on, and letting them see that there's somebody. The self-esteem, the self-confidence issues, and the more that a girl feels good about herself, loves herself, and accepts herself, then she's not going to look on the outside to fix what's missing on the inside. Giving girls permission also to talk about abuse. When someone abusing them, emotionally, psychologically, verbally, or physically, or sexually. And so a lot of that is what throws them into those cycles of abuse, where people can perpetuate a fraud and make them believe that they're being treated okay. So we're going to continue talking about this. This has been great. I mean, there's a lot, and we appreciate, Alma Davis, the things you're doing, and we're going to continue to talk about domestic violence. I'm Dr. Joyce Morley, and with A Woman's Worth, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more with Alma Davis.
Lord, we need you. Oh, Heavenly Father, oh, come in, come in. You are welcome, you are welcome. Lord, we need you.
he did on Calvary for you and me. The righteous, pen and paper, the fakers.
It won't always be new. It won't always be clean. It won't always be flawless. But it'll always be yours. So how do you know it'll be protected? To solve the big challenges of tomorrow, take simple steps today. When you're ready to start, we're ready to help with auto insurance. Get started at countryfinancial.com/simple steps.
The Women's International Network presents A Woman's Worth with psychotherapist and relationship expert, Dr. Joyce Morley. Let's explore our self-worth, poor decisions, family interactions, and more. Recognizing a woman's worth, bringing healing to the nations.
Welcome back, Dr. Joyce Morley, and we've been talking with Alma Davis from the Alma Davis Foundation. And Ms. Davis deals with women who are dealing with domestic violence, or maybe not dealing with domestic violence. She helps them to be able to deal with that, and there are a lot of things that she's involved in. And we've talked about recognizing it, what women have to go through, what your foundation does. And we really, really appreciate you for all that you do. So now we want to talk about a little bit more about some of the activities that you do and the things that you're doing in order to be able to help in the community as far as women and domestic violence.
Yes, so through our mission of educating, empowering, and celebrating survivors with the empowerment piece, every October, the first Saturday of October, we do a walk called Walk 'Em Out in Their Shoes. It's a 5K run, 1 mile walk, but it's very unique because if you are a walker, you're partnered with a real survivor, whether that's a male, female, or child.
Awesome.
And as you walk together, they share their story with you, so you're truly walking a mile in their shoes.
Getting
hearing
understanding,
it,
right? Yes.
Hearing it on your own.
Firsthand.
And what that has done, it has empowered so many survivors to come out, to share their story, to even see it's not just me. There is a community of people, and it's also encouraging because you can then start the foundation of getting the help that you need to help break the cycle.
Surely.
Our big signature event that we do every June is called Dinner for Divas. This will be our 10th year here in 2019. And the whole premise of Dinner for Divas is that we bring out almost 200 survivors, as young as 13, from over 35 shelters in the state. And they come out for a day. They don't have a clue of what they're getting ready for. And they get formal gowns and attire. They get their hair, makeup, nails, even etiquette classes. And they don't realize until they walk the red carpet that night that everybody is there to honor them. And so it's a mind-changing event because the whole premise is if I can show you how beautiful you are on the outside, then I can pour into your inside. And so many survivors, no matter what your physical appearance looks like, they don't know what it's like to be beautiful.
They don't know what it's like because people don't see them that way. And the man makes them believe that they're not worthy of being beautiful.
Yes.
No one else wants you. I'm the only one who wants you, so you've got to stay with me.
Yes.
And it's that rhetoric, it's that mindset, it's feeling, it's that trickery of the mind and giving them that belief. It's like the Pied Piper, and they lead them somewhere else that's not good for them.
Yes.
We're so glad to hear about the Alma Davis Foundation and knowing the great things that you're doing. It is such a great thing because you know what? We need people like you. We need people like you to pour into our girls, pour into our women, and being able to help them. Do you all go into the schools and do anything?
Yes, we do send counsel. We have counselors that do work with some of the school systems already here in Atlanta. So we do that. I do a lot of lunch and learns for corporations, as well as universities and schools, colleges, to talk about how domestic violence affects the workplace. Not just from the standpoint of the liability issues, but how do you recognize it? So many people don't know how to recognize whether someone on their job is being abused until something happens.
Something drastic happens. And
yes.
oftentimes in the workplace, if they're going through domestic violence, they're being abused, that person's not going to do their best work. They're going to be missing work quite a bit. They're not coming to work. You don't know what's really going on. Or you see the black guy, and as what you went through when you were 14, I fell, I slipped, someone pushed me. I don't know what happened because again, it becomes invisible. And believe that no one really wants to hear that story. I tell you, it is really something else. And it's sad that in a society that we have to believe that people have to be treated the way they're doing, or mistreated, or maltreated. And no one should be somebody else's punching bag. No one should be someone else's verbal abuse bag. No one should be someone else's doormat the light switch or to be able to switch on and off whenever they feel like it. But that's what domestic violence does.
Yes.
And that makes it very, very difficult. And I'm so glad that you're doing the things that you're doing. Your daughters are leaders.
Yes.
They are part of all of this. They're helping to be able to pull all this together. Alma Davis, tell everyone how they can reach out to you and what they can do and where you can be found.
Okay, the foundation is the Alma G. Davis Foundation. We are the foundation. When you think of breast cancer, you think of Susan G. Coleman, and that's who we are. It's a domestic violence, the Alma G. Davis Foundation. We can be reached on our website, which is almagdavis.org. We are on all social media channels as Alma G. Davis FDN. And someone can even call our offices for help at 678-957-9464. So we are all around. It's easy to find us.
Alma, thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you.
Hopefully we've been able to enlighten someone's life and to give you a lot more information about domestic violence. You don't have to take any abuse from anyone. I'm Dr. Joyce Morley, A Woman's Worth, and join us the next time. Thank you.